February has 28 days, and I think the extent of the work didn't deliver on the agreed date. So they are now ready to present their reports. The 5-member committee is here, and I don't know which format they are going to use, but they are ready to deliver the report. So on your behalf, I welcome them to the Ministry of Health. Thank you.
As Chief has already mentioned, we are given a mandate to investigate the circumstances surrounding the hold-up of these containers at the port. And also investigate other related procurement issues. So we did our investigations. What we did was to first interview almost all the directors of ECG, including the acting MD then and the current acting MD. We visited the ports to ascertain the numbers of containers we have there, and then we also investigated other issues that come around. So I'll put them in 3. 1, for the containers, we took a list of containers that ECG has as containers we have at the port to be 2,491. That was the list they gave us, 2,491. However, when we visited the port and counted the ECG containers there, we got 1,134. 2,491 is the list we were given.
But you got only.
We got 1,134. Leaving out about 1,328 containers that could not be accounted for.
Thank you.
In the same investigation, we saw that, so we were trying to ascertain how come those containers were not cleared. In our interviews, we got to know that previously, ECG had been clearing their containers and evidence was there to show. And they were doing that with an arrangement where they set up certain fund and transfer a fixed amount to that account every week. And that is what enabled the shipping department to be doing the clearing of the goods when the goods arrive. They do that because the contract they signed for these foreign goods is CIF, simply meaning that the supplier will deliver the goods to the port, hand over the documents to ECG, and the shipping department of ECG will do the clearing. It is done because of a reason, because most of those goods receive exemption from GRA. So if ECG clears them, they are able to take advantage of those exemptions. However, up to 2022, they don't know what happened and they stopped setting aside the money. And that was when the containers started piling up. We got documents to prove that the Materials Directorate on 3 different occasions wrote memos to management to notify them that this situation is alarming, and hence they plead that they make money available so that they can clear the containers. Other directors also confirmed that those issues were raised at management meetings severally. In fact, some of them say when they were hearing the news, they were very uncomfortable, and hence they also added their voice that money be made available for them to clear the containers. But we don't know what happened. Money was made available. The material director indicated that they got the news that there was no money. That was what they were told, that there was no money. However, the committee also ascertained that around that same period that we were being told that there was no money, and money to clear the container is about just 1% of whatever cost they will incur on that container. At the same time that they were saying they were not having money, several contracts related to the same goods have been awarded. And those contracts are such that when the supplier delivers at the port and hands over the documents, 90% of the cost is supposed to be paid. All these spread over a period of time. So our question was, if you don't have money which you need to clear, why do you continue awarding contracts of the same type? We didn't get answers to those anyway. Then another development was that over a period when they piled up to over 2,400, we saw that 2 clearing companies were engaged to clear those particular containers for ECG. One was supposed to clear 1 container at 115,000 per container without recourse to size or content. 115,000 per container. 115,000 Ghana cedis per container. 115. Surprisingly, that company was supposed to be pre-financed to do the job, meaning ECG was ready to give them money to clear the containers for them. Even though their shipping department is still active and has still been clearing goods. Another company was also contracted to do the same job. They were given, the first company was given 1,110 containers at 115,000 per container. The other company was given 200 containers at 160,000 per container. The first company who was being pre-financed by ECG was given, we realized or we saw they were paid 30 million to do the job. 30 million Ghana cedis. That's the total amount they were given so far to use in clearing the containers. The other company claimed they would pay finance, so they were not given any money. Now fast forward, the first company did the clearing, they cleared some, they didn't clear some, and that was around December 2024. You all remember the issues at the port, so there were instructions that movements of containers be put on hold. We also found out that the second company, even though they were being contracted to clear containers from the port, they had no custom house license. A license you need to do a job they are being contracted to do. Additionally, we also saw that the second company was able to clear 47 containers, move them out of the port, deliver to ECG, feed their warehouse, confirmed, but they paid nothing for clearing the containers. A check from GRA indicates that they started the process, no duties were paid, but the containers were moved out of the port, and ECG confirmed they received the content. We were alarmed, and we raised that issue in our report as well. Then, to the procurement issues, what we realized again was that even though ECG is a procurement entity, and we're supposed to procure following the Public Procurement Act 663 as amended, they don't do any such thing. They procure contrary to the rules indicated in the Public Procurement Act. We saw they wrote letters to the Minister of Finance and the SIGA requesting for exemption under Section 15 of the Act. We also saw responses from PPA denying such exemption. And we thought that when you seek permission from someone to do something, you are denied. The status quo remains. But whilst they are writing permission or seeking permission to procure using under Section 15 and they were denied, they continue doing their own thing without following the Act. In fact, we queried them. We were told that when they receive direct cash from government to inject into their operations, that is when they use the Public Procurement Act. And again, when they receive donor funding, then they may either use the Act or use the donor agency's rules, depending on what PPA will say. But when they generate money from their own operation, they refer to it as IGF. That they don't follow the Act. But the Public Procurement Law defines public funds clearly. And IGF is a key component of that. So we were surprised, we were being told that for their IGF, they don't follow the Public Procurement Act. They also agree that there are companies, they compete, etc. But you all agree that ECG, when it comes to electricity distribution in the southern zone, they don't compete with anybody. They enjoy monopoly. So they can't say that they compete in the market. In fact, those were the reasons why PP never granted them the exemption to procure under Section 15. Then when it comes to the practices themselves, you realize that immediately they are not following the law. A lot of things wouldn't follow good practice. We saw that there has been a practice of consistent over-procurement. But procurement simply means that procuring more than what you planned for. So for example, 2022, our procurement was about 70%. 2023 was about 740-something%. So whatever they plan to procure in their procurement plan, you realize that that was overdone by 740-something%. Then we also saw that a lot of the procurements were not done using the competitive methods of procurement. A few examples include the award of the clearing contracts we give to those two clearing companies. The first one was just handpicked. The second one as well, we understand the second one brought a proposal to help them clear the containers. So we asked them, how did the firm know that you have a problem of clearing containers for them to bring proposal? We didn't get any proper answer, but they brought a proposal and then they approved. Another person brought, they approved. It's the same thing they do when it comes to the cables. No competition. Proposals are brought, referrals are made to procurement director to do price comparison, essentially with whatever they procured before and then award contract. Our question was, if I'm bringing a proposal to you for a contract, I'll first have checked how much you have been paying for the goods before. And I'll definitely put the price lower than whatever you have been paying. So that price comparison wouldn't work. Then we also saw that ECG had a procurement directorate previously. In fact, we are alarmed that ECG, with the type of procurement they do and the values of the procurement, their procurement directorate has been fused with housing and estate. Previously, they had a procurement directorate. We didn't know what happened, and the procurement directorate was supposed to be merged with another directorate, and the person who was the procurement director moved to engineering, and the housing and estate director is now in charge of procurement, housing, and estate. That was in 2023, February. Yeah. So it's now procurement, premises, and estate directorate. We are worried because ECG as an institution and the type of work they do, you can't combine procurement, premises, and estate. We also investigated the background of the current director because whoever is in charge of the directorate will also spearhead whatever direction the directorate should take. And it's obvious, he was director of premises and estate, so he's an engineer, and then he did MBA in finance. He is not a member of any professional body in procurement or supply chain, but he is heading procurement at ECG. We wanted to understand why that happened, but none of the directors then was able to give us any answer. We were told it was a board decision to merge the two, and then ask the director of procurement then to be reassigned. There are several other findings we got. They are all detailed in the report. We've also provided our recommendations as to the way forward. Some are to minister, some are to whoever takes over, the current acting MP, and some are also to PPA to immediately rope ECG in. Because what we have seen is not good. And if they don't rope them in to follow the dictates of the law, we'll be in trouble. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll hand over the report to the Honorable Minister. The title of the report is Investigative Report on Electricity Company of Ghana's container hold-up at the port and related procurement issues.
Here.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, members of the press, for honoring this invitation. And let me thank this committee led by Professor Innocent Kwesiakwa. As you would recall, during my visit to the Tama Harbour, it came to light that about 2,500 containers were stuck at the port, incurring demurrage of about 1.5 billion cedis. We felt alarmed and we thought that we could not continue. And so, after briefing His Excellency the President, we set up this committee to ascertain the reasons for the holding up of those containers, and also to look at other procurement-related matters, so that as a ministry, we can make some policy recommendations. I find your work very, very satisfactory. You've done a very, very detailed investigation, and I want to commend all of you. And thank you very much for serving this country. The only thing I can say is that I knew there were going to be challenges, but your report gets me very, very alarmed. One, out of the 2,491 containers, ECG itself presents as containers held at the port, 1,328 cannot be accounted for. That is very serious. That's very alarming. And I assure you, we would conduct a detailed investigation into this matter. And somebody or some people will be held liable for this. 1,328 containers cannot just vanish into thin air. Somebody must be held liable for this. And I assure you that we would hold people liable for this. And whatever it takes, we'll work with the Attorney General, we'll work with the police, and ensure that whichever group, whatever people are responsible for this, are brought to book. And that will retrieve either the containers or the monetary equivalent of these containers. And that I assure you that this ministry would pursue this to its logical conclusion. We've also decided that we would move the rest of the containers into a secured warehouse. Let me thank the National Security Coordinator in his office for assisting us so far with taking delivery of some of these containers. I've written to National Security to provide us with 24-hour security. We have a detailed catalog or inventory of all these containers, their serial numbers, and everything, and put it in a system where the Minister, ECG, National Security, and if the Presidency is interested, everybody will monitor these containers. But what I don't want to happen is that in the attempt to retrieve these containers and keep them, they also get missing along the lane. And I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take people there to take stock, and by the time you realize, it becomes another business for some people to milk the states. And I'm very, very particular about that. So, Chief Director, I know I've mentioned something to you. Let's put in place stringent measures so that we can account for the remaining containers. We'll also have to change the procurement processes at ECG. It can't be business as usual. And I can assure you that we intend to take some swift, far-reaching measures to ensure that the right thing is done. We are not targeting anybody. There is no particular person in sight. But whoever superintendent over this, especially the former managing directors, they will be liable. And they have to answer for their stewardship. And that is the essence of public office. Once you take public office, you have to be available and willing and ready to account for your stewardship. I don't know why somebody would decide that he wants to merge a whole procurement unit, a standalone directorate with estates department. I do estates, they do is to keep estates and ensure that the accommodation and all those things are functioning. What has that got to do with procurement? And so immediately we decouple that. And we decouple that next week and get a qualified procurement person to head that directorate. Because ECG does a lot of procurement, and so that should be their main focus. Whoever took that decision has done a lot of damage. And what worries me is that most of these things, the board was in place. So I asked myself, what was the board doing when all these things were happening? So we would ensure that that is done. And then you prepare a budget. I've served on the ECG board before. The board approves your procurement plan. And by the end of the year, you've procured far in excess by 700%. I mean, this can only be, excuse my language, crazy. I mean, I can't understand what will happen in 2023 and 2024 to warrant over 700% increment in procurement plans. And like the chairman said, you claim you don't have money to clear existing containers, but you have money to order contracts and to pile up more containers which you cannot clear. So we would assimilate this report, we will tease out all the key issues, and we'll give some policy directions immediately and ask for some reviews, and also monitor what ECG is. Losses to the state, the law will take its course, would encourage the Attorney General and the Police Service and all the law enforcement agencies to prosecute the culprits so that we serve as a deterrent, and also to retrieve the monetary value of all these lost assets. Once again, let me thank the committee. I'm so grateful, and I want to thank you on behalf of the ministry, on behalf of His Excellency the President, for doing a good job. I do know that we have other assignments ahead, and some of you will continue to assist us in that regard. Members of the press, tomorrow at this same time, we expect that the committee tax to engage with all stakeholders and advise government on the roadmap for the ECG private sector participation. Will also be presenting the report. It looks like ECG is taking about 50% of my attention because of the problems there. And the problems are enormous. Today, as I speak to you, Palo has shut down their pipeline because of accumulated legacy debts. And I've had to go and see the Minister of Finance to use the taxpayers' money to find a solution to this challenge. If we do not resolve that immediately, it means that we cannot deliver power. And so ECG is critical. If we don't get ECG fixed, we'll continue to have serious challenges which will impact power delivery and even the delivery of petroleum products. And so as a ministry, we'll be taking some very tough, unpleasant, difficult decisions. But we take those decisions in the overall interest of this country. We must fix the system. Other than that, the whole energy sector will collapse.
Please subscribe.